So we're coming up on about 2 weeks now since Season 4 started, and as always, at the beginning of each season, I'm going to be going through my full ranking of every single hunter in Star Wars Hunters. Not only because it's fun to do, but also hopefully it helps you guys kind of understand who people are considering the best and worst in the game, especially for any new players who are, playing with the PC playtest. This might help you guys understand who's good to use and who's really not that good to use. So without wasting any time, we're going to get stuck right into it. And as always, I'm just going to go through in order of all the damage hunters, then the support hunters, and then the tank hunters. And as always, like to do, just sort of reiterating with the meta tier, this doesn't necessarily mean that they are in the meta in terms of playing ranked in that, meta team composition. I'm only basing these individually. So realistically, the meta is like 3 tanks and a support, or maybe even a 4th damage or something like that. But for the sake of the ranking, it is essentially just the characters that I think are individually the best in the game. Now, first off, we've got Aaron Tal, and he's always kind of a hard one. He's very good, but I also don't use him enough to probably be really good with him, which is kind of weird because he actually suits my playstyle a lot, and he's also probably the coolest character in the game as well. So I think for now, I'm going to put him into the good tier, and he's probably at the top of that. He kind of hovers between these 2 tiers, but I think for now, I'll leave him here. I think he's the type of character, if I sort of mained him, then he may move up to the great tier. I just think that with a lot of practice, he's the type of character that is very good. I just haven't really played him as much as I really expected to, because he, like I said, he's one of the coolest in the game, and he is still definitely very solid as well. Now, next up, we've got Pillbush, and I think it kind of goes without saying, she immediately goes to the meta tier. I think she's the best in the game. Someone else on this list might have something to say about that as this season goes on, but every time I use Pillbush, I'm dropping like 20 plus kill games with her, which I don't really tend to do with many other hunters unless it's like a long game or something. But even in a 3 to 4 minute game, I can consistently drop 20 bombs with her, which is, just insane. And that's nothing to do with my skill, it's to do with how good she is as a hunter. So I do think she needs a bit of a nerf. Hopefully she gets that in Season 5, especially because obviously we're going to be getting the PC players and stuff as well, and that means that, all of us who can play on PC and use a really busted hunter, that might be a little bit of a problem. So hopefully she gets a nerf, but as of right now, she is definitely up there. Now, as for Nox, the brand new hunter in Season 4, well, she also goes up here, and I really don't know who's better. I think, honestly, for my playstyle, I think Nox kind of suits me more, but I think Pillbush is kind of like generally better. I think anyone can pick Pillbush up and do really well, whereas I think Nox has maybe got a bit of a bigger skill curve. I think she can be hard to play, even though she's really good. I think if you're not that good with her, she can actually be really, really difficult. So either way, the previous 2 hunters that have been added are in the meta tier, which I personally don't love. I don't love when they get added and they're really, really good, because obviously we have to pay for them early unless you want to wait. So I don't love that, but that's just how it is. To be fair, Aaron Tal wasn't broken when he launched, so they're batting about 2 for 2 because Chaos also hasn't been, amazing. So hopefully they fix that in seasons moving forward, but for now, these 2 are definitely up there in that meta tier. Now, next up, we've got Amara Vex, and she was the only hunter in the previous season's ranking that I did that was in the not great tier. I have purposely used her because she got a bit of a buff in this season. I thought, I'm going to really knuckle down and use her a lot to see if she's maybe better than I thought she was, because I used to love Amara Vex back in the soft launch. And I will say, I think she has moved up for me to the good tier. Now, she's probably still towards the end of it once all these others get added, but I think her little buff, mostly to do with the overheat as well as the homing missile, is now just a bit more accurate. It kind of just, it's 15% better at homing. Essentially, that's what they said in the patch notes. It means that she can, she deals a lot of damage. Like that's the thing about Amara that has always been really good. Almost every game I ever play as her, even if I don't do well, I will still beat everyone in terms of how much damage I've dealt. But it doesn't always translate to a lot of kills and stuff. You can just, the amount of times you get 90% damage done on a hunter and they kill you, it's really, really frustrating. And I think for her, she just needs another ability or some sort of boost, or even a speed boost in general. She is very slow. Obviously, she has the grapple. If you are close to a grapple, like a ledge, you can sometimes get out of trouble. But I just find if anyone's pushing me, especially like a Reeve or someone, I may as well just turn the controller off, because I'm 100% going to die in that situation. Now, next up, we have Diago, and he was in this tier in the previous season. This man is going down into not great. I have just decided this dude is just so pointless, especially now with Nox. I just think if you're going to use someone who's good at range, obviously she's got a bit of a delay because it's an arrow, not Like he's shooting actual bullets, not even blaster bolts. He shoots like actual slugs. So they're kind of instant in this game, whereas hers take a bit of time to get there. So that's really the only advantage. But really, if you're trying to play someone who's good at long range, Nox is just in every single way superior. He can put out good damage, but I just feel he's just not useful enough on objectives and stuff, and I'm a very objective focused player, so I don't know. For me, I don't love playing him. Every time I see a Diago on the other team, they might get a kill here or there on me, but for the most part, they're just doing absolutely nothing to help their team, and generally they're actually kind of cannon fodder. You can just end up getting a bunch of kills on them. So I think he goes down into the not great tier. He might potentially be the worst in the game for me. Now, next up, we've got J3, and this is always a bit of a controversial one because I think I think people have very varying opinions on him. I personally think he's in the great tier. He's probably close to the end, and he could definitely go there if you don't play much. For me, he's just one of those ones that whenever I do pick him up, he tends to suit me really well. And I just think if you know how to play J3, he's so hard to kill. Like, he's got the block. He also has more health than most of the other, well, I guess not so much Groz, but in terms of Reeve, he's got like borderline double the health. Plus, he can pick up the little parts that he drops and get more health back. So he's so hard to kill, and he also can output some crazy damage too. And so yeah, for me, he definitely belongs in the great tier. I can understand why people say he's a bit lower because he is kind of just a less mobile Reeve, and I do get that. But yeah, for me, he definitely goes in the great tier. Now, when it comes to Reeve, she did get a bit of a nerf this season. I still think she's in the meta in terms of the individual hunters. I feel like not only me, but every time I see a Reeve, they tend to do pretty damn well. Her damage is crazy, and obviously she's a bit of a glass cannon. She doesn't have much health, and essentially if you're not blocking shots, like, people can take you out very quickly. But she's also got great movement, and I think that is one thing that really helps her. So I think for players who are good at that, like, ultra aggressive playstyle, but not aggressive in the way of running headfirst to someone, just more maneuvering around the map in a way that you can avoid damage, and then once you're close to someone, you're going to get kills. I think people who can play like that will definitely do really well with Reeve. So I still think she's in the meta. She's another one that maybe could drop down here due to that nerf, but I haven't really noticed it myself. I still feel like she's doing really well, and so for me, she goes up into that meta tier. Now, next up, we've got Utuni. And these bad boys are very difficult for me because the thing for me, I suck with them. I could borderline put them here, yet every Utuni player that I come across, they absolutely slap me. So I think I'm going to put them in the good tier, probably towards the tail end of it, but they are really good. This is mostly to do with me not doing that well with them. I think if you know how to play Utuni, it's probably similar to J3. If you know how to play Utuni really well, then yeah, these bad boys can output some crazy damage both from range and especially up close with the like electricity blaster thing that they've got that can just delete you on the spot. So yeah, I'm not too sure. To be honest, actually, no, they definitely go above Amara. I don't know what I'm thinking there. So they're definitely in the middle here, but I think they're still probably towards the tail end. But that's just for me. I think for a lot of, like, man, some of the people I come across, they borderline could have them in the meta tier for them, because I tend to just, if I see Utuni, I'm pretty much dead, it feels like. Now, next up, we've got Scorer, and Scorer is a very hard one. Pretty much every single ranking I've ever done, she's been in the meta. I don't think she is anymore. I think that the constant nerf, she's pretty much had, I think, definitely 2, but maybe even 3 nerfs by now. I really do think that she's maybe down in the great tier now. She's probably above J3 still, but I don't think she's in the meta anymore, and I have decided, which we'll get to in a second, I don't think she's the best support hunter anymore. So I think she goes in the great tier for now. Her ultimate is still, I think it's the best, or at least the most crucial ultimate in the game. If you put that in the right position, like, you will win games. So her ultimate brings her up a lot. If she had a shit ultimate, I genuinely think she'd be just not even worth using. But yeah, I still just think a good scorer player can cause a lot of chaos in any given game. Next up, we've got Sprocket, and this is quite ironic, and I want to say a public apology to Sprocket mains, because forever I had him in the useless tier or the not great tier. I think I maybe last season moved him up to the good tier, but I'm going to be honest, I think this fella is now the best support hunter in the game. I don't know what's changed. Nothing. He actually hasn't had any like buffs. I think he had a buff in maybe season 2 or something, but nothing has really changed with him. I just think that the more I see people playing Sprocket, I think the more that people are realizing, and therefore I'm realizing, how to actually play him on a mode like dynamic control, or really just any mode where everyone's kind of grouped together. His healing drone thing combined with these other 2 drones are crazy good if you're getting yourself in the right spot, especially when you're paired with like 3 tanks, or say 2 tanks and a Reeve or a Pillbush or someone. It just feels like you can be the glue that holds your team together, which I don't feel like I can be with Scorer anymore, just because she's not as good at getting kills. And then I still think she's always been, like, she's still good at healing, but I just don't think that was ever her strong suit. I feel like they're about even now in terms of actual damage output, and therefore, aside from the ultimate, her ultimate is still better than his. I just think that, yeah, he has somehow moved all the way up. After, maybe it's just because I've been playing him a bit more, I don't know, but somehow I now consider him the best support hunter in the game. Maybe it's just because I loved playing Scorer and I just was, I don't know, a bit biased towards her, I'm not sure, but somehow he has moved up to be the best support hunter in the game. The thing with all of them, they're all very close, so it can change every single season, but for now, I'm going to put him in the great tier, and I think he has taken the throne as the #1 support hunter. Now, lastly, for the supports, we have got Zaina, and the thing with Zaina is that in terms of actual healing capacity, she's the best of the lot, I think, because you can just absolutely spam that freaking back to bomb, and it feels like people, if you're standing next to a Groz or a Char or someone like that, it just feels like you can actually make them literally invincible, because by the time they're taking damage, you can just throw another back to bomb and they almost get back to full health. So in terms of healing, I think she's probably the best, but her blaster and the fact that she doesn't really have any other way to deal damage means that she is, for me, the worst of the three, at least in terms of being an overall character, because you can do really good at healing, but I do feel like you're not any threat really when it comes to dealing damage yourself. Her blaster's decent, but I feel like you got to be really accurate, and like, she used to, for those who didn't know, she used to have a grenade ability. If she still had that, she'd be #1 for sure, but I just feel like, at least when I play her, it leaves me wanting more. It feels like I need one other thing to be able to deal a bit of damage, or even just like stun people or something else that she can have in her arsenal, because really all she has is that back to bomb, but it is still very good, and I still consider it a great hunter. Now, finally, we are on to the tanks, and I'm going to be honest, they're all pretty damn similar other than Groz. I think for Char, he probably goes, oh, this is actually tougher than I thought now that I say it. He borderline goes in the meta. I think good Char players can just be dominant if they know what time to use that like health regen ability. It just feels like you can't even kill him, and he deals pretty good damage. He's able to pull you off objectives and stuff. So I think, I don't know, it just feels a bit strange having him in the meta tier. But yeah, no, I'm going to put him down here. Going to put him in front of Sprocket, but he is very close to that meta tier. I think if he got a slight buff, he'd be up there for sure. Next up, we've got Groz, and again, he might actually go in the not great tier. I think I'm going to put him above Dialga just because he can still be very, very annoying to deal with. If you have a good Groz player who's just tanking damage on the objective and stuff, he can influence games way more than Dialga. So I still think he goes above Dialga, but I just think there are literally 4 other tanks that are better. There's almost no real reason to use Groz, which is a shame because he's pretty fun to use, but yeah, I just feel like he's kind of lacking compared to the rest. Now, next up, we've got Chaos, and she's a tough one. I think I'm going to put her in the good tier just behind Arental. It's close. I don't know. I think she goes there. She's still really fun to play. I think she's got one of the most like unique playstyles in the game, at least for a tank anyway, because she can be a genuine tank, or she can kind of, you know, with her blaster, she just feels like she's a bit different to the rest of the tanks. I think she goes there for now. She's definitely viable, and I do think like in ranked, you can definitely play as Chaos and do pretty well, but I think she probably drops down just a little bit in terms of the actual rankings. Now, Sentinel got another nerf in this season, and for that, I think I'm going to put him in the great tier. This is his first season out of the meta tier. I think he's still very viable, and again, in ranked, he's probably in that meta team composition, but I do feel like he's just gotten slightly weaker each season, and so that leaves me feeling, yeah, he's probably at the top of that great tier, still on the cusp of being in the meta, but just not quite there at the end of the day. Now, finally, we have got Slingshot, and I think he retains his spot in the meta. I'm not 100% sure on this now that I look at it. I don't know if it's really top heavy to have that many in great. I feel like he's so useful on objectives, but he doesn't, you know, like Sentinel can output some crazy damage, even Chaos, and even Char really. Slingshot is kind of hit and miss, but I don't know, I'm very torn on this one. For me personally, he would be in the meta for sure, because he's probably, I would say these 3 right here, and realistically even Pillbush, they're probably my 4 mains, ironically. But I do think maybe for people who don't use him as much, he maybe goes down in the great tier. I just think for me, I've played him so much, he's probably one of my most used hunters, that I think he goes in the meta tier, especially just because he's so freaking good on objectives. Like, you can just roll in and really cause a bit of chaos on those objectives. You can tank a lot of damage, you can deal a lot of damage yourself, and then if you really need to, you can kind of get away pretty quickly. So I think he's still in the meta, but I'm feeling like he's slowly getting a little bit worse, not because they've nerfed him or anything, just because it feels like everyone else is kind of getting a bit better. But yeah, I think for now, that is where he belongs. So that is it for my rankings. I feel pretty happy about this. I think it all feels pretty good. I think these two are maybe interchangeable. For me personally, though, J3 is definitely better. And you know what? J3, I actually think I am far better with J3 than Sprocket now. So I'm going to change that up. That there is my final rankings for Season 4 of Star Wars Hunters. Obviously, once again, keep in mind, that does not mean these are objectively the best. This is just my opinion. And I'm sure you guys will let me know in the comments that I am very wrong on some of these, and that's definitely okay. So feel free to leave your thoughts down below, what you agree with, what you disagree with. Hell, even leave your full rankings as well. And hopefully for any of you guys who are playing the PC playtest for the first time this weekend, hopefully this will help you guys get a gauge on who you maybe want to play as, who are some of the best and worst hunters to use. But that is going to do it for this one, guys. Thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and may the force be with you always.